At 2:07 a.m., something moved in the abandoned basement of the factory, and I was the only one on the property. I told myself it was just the building settling, but what I found downstairs is the reason I'll never work another night shift again. My name is Mark Ellison. I'm 41, and up until 3 weeks ago, I worked as the overnight security guard at an old steel fabrication plant outside Braddock, Pennsylvania, about 20 minutes from Pittsburgh. The place had mostly shut down in the early 90s. Only one wing was still used for storage, crates of outdated equipment, boxed records, scrap materials waiting to be auctioned off. The rest of the factory just sat there, rotting. 3 stories of empty offices, endless concrete hallways, machinery frozen in time. At night, it felt like a monument to something long dead. I worked alone. 10 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. my job was simple. Walk the floors, check the locks, watch the cameras, make sure nobody broke in to steal copper wiring or tools. Most nights were painfully quiet. You get used to certain sounds in a place like that. The tick of cooling metal, wind squeezing through broken seals in old windows, the occasional bang from pipes expanding. After a while, you can tell the difference between normal old building noise and something else. That Tuesday night in late October, the silence felt wrong, heavier, like the building was holding its breath. Around 2 o'clock a.m., I was in the security office drinking stale coffee when I heard it, a dull thud. Then a long scraping sound. It came from below me, the basement. Now the basement hadn't been used since the Reagan administration. When the company downsized in '89, that entire lower level was sealed off. No electricity, no equipment, no reason for anyone to be down there. At first I brushed it off, probably a raccoon or loose metal shifting. But then it happened again, scrape, slow, heavy, deliberate, like something being dragged across concrete. I felt that tight pull in my gut, the one that tells you not everything is explainable. Still, it was my job to check. So I grabbed my flashlight and headed for the stairwell. The door to the basement was thick steel, painted industrial gray decades ago. The handle was cold when I touched it. The stairs were coated in dust, the kind that settles when a place hasn't been disturbed in years. My boots left clear footprints as I descended. The air grew colder with every step, and then the sound stopped. The second my foot touched the basement floor, silence, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. I swept my flashlight across the room. Concrete pillars, rusted shelving, old wooden pallets collapsed in on themselves, nothing moving. Then I saw something I swear hadn't been there before. In the far left corner, partially hidden behind a support beam, was a narrow wooden door. I had worked there for 5 years. I had done walkthroughs down here before. I had never seen that door. It was slightly ajar. My heartbeat was loud in my ears as I crossed the floor toward it. The air smelled damp, mildew, and something older, something stale. I pushed the door open. Inside wasn't storage. It was a room, a small makeshift living space. There was an old military-style cot, a rusted sink attached to exposed plumbing, a lantern, stacks of yellowed paperbacks, a crate turned upside down as a table. Someone had been living down there. Not recently, the dust proved that, but at some point. Then my light landed on the wall, a calendar, every single day marked off in thick red ink, crossed out carefully, methodically, every day except one, today's date. The exact date I was standing there, unmarked. I felt something shift in the room, not a sound, not movement, just the overwhelming sensation that I was not alone. The air felt thinner, harder to breathe. I backed out slowly, my flashlight shaking in my hand. And just as I stepped into the main basement area, I heard it again. Behind me, scrape. But this time, it wasn't across the floor. It sounded closer, like it came from inside that room. I didn't look back. I ran up those stairs and locked the basement door. I didn't sleep after my shift. I couldn't get that calendar out of my head. Why that date? Why leave that one day blank? The next morning, everything got worse. One of the maintenance guys, Tom Harlow, was found dead in the employee break room. He was only 52, no known health issues. They said it looked like cardiac arrest, but I saw his face. Eyes wide open, mouth slightly parted, frozen in absolute terror. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no overturned furniture, just that expression, like he had seen something in the room with him, something that shouldn't have been there. I didn't tell the police about the basement room. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want them asking why I had gone down there. Maybe because I didn't want to sound insane. But that night when I came back for my shift, I checked the cameras first. All normal, all quiet. Until 1:58 a.m. the basement camera, which had been dead for years, flickered on. Static at first, then a frame. Just for a second. The image was grainy, but I could see the corner of that basement room, the cot, and something dark standing beside it, tall, still, facing the camera. Then the feed cut out, and every other monitor glitched for a full 5 seconds. I quit the next morning. No 2-week notice. No explanation. I just left. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't gone back, but here's what keeps me up at night. That calendar wasn't counting forward. It was counting down, and the only day left uncrossed was the day I opened that door. Sometimes I wake up around 2:07 a.m. for no reason. The room feels colder, heavier, and I get that same suffocating feeling I had in the basement, like something is standing just out of sight, watching, waiting. Because if something was down there for decades, and I was the one who found it, who's to say it stayed in that factory after I left? And what if the date wasn't a warning? What if it was an invitation? Because ever since that night, I can't shake the feeling that whatever was living in that basement didn't want to be found. It wanted to be released. At 3:11 a.m., I found a man tied to a crate in the back of my warehouse, and before I could untie him, masked men came out of the dark and took him. The police say it never happened, but someone still knows I saw it. My name is Ryan Mercer. I'm 33, and until 2 months ago, I worked the overnight security shift at a distribution warehouse outside Elizabeth, New Jersey, about 15 minutes from the port. The job was simple, quiet, boring even. The warehouse was enormous. Rows of towering shelves stacked with shipping crates, electronics, auto parts, and sealed pallets waiting for transport. After midnight, it was just me inside that massive steel building. No coworkers, no drivers, no managers, just humming fluorescent lights and miles of concrete floor. I actually liked it that way. You get used to the sounds, ventilation fans kicking on, metal expanding as temperatures drop, the faint echo of your own footsteps bouncing back at you. After 6 months, I knew every aisle, every shadow, every parked forklift, which is why the first thing that bothered me that night seemed so small. Around 1:45 a.m., I walked past Dock 7 and noticed one of the forklifts had been moved. It wasn't where I left it. Now that might not sound strange, except I was the only one with the ignition key for that specific machine. Management kept it separate because it was newer. I stood there staring at it. Maybe I'd parked it wrong. Maybe I'd misremembered, but no, I had left it flush against the charging station. Now it was angled toward the far aisle, like someone had driven it out halfway. A chill ran through me. Still, I told myself not to overthink it. Long shifts mess with your head. I continued my patrol. That's when I heard it, footsteps, soft at first, boots on concrete, not mine. I stopped walking. The sound stopped too. I waited. Silence. Then 2 more steps, slow, deliberate, coming from somewhere deep in the back storage aisles. My pulse spiked. "Hello," I called out, trying to sound confident. No answer. I grabbed my flashlight and started moving toward the sound, weaving between towering shelves. The further back I went, the dimmer it got. Only half the lights were on in the rear section to save electricity. The beam of my flashlight flickered once. That didn't help. Then I saw something. At the end of aisle 14, a shape, a person, sitting on top of a wooden shipping crate. I moved closer. It was a man, mid-30s maybe. His wrists were zip-tied behind his back, his ankles bound, his face swollen and bruised. There was dried blood on his shirt collar. He looked up at me with wide, desperate eyes. He didn't scream. He didn't move. He just stared at me like he had been waiting for anyone. My body went cold. I took a step forward, and that's when I heard them, heavy footsteps. Multiple, fast, from behind the shelving. Before I could react, 3 men in dark clothing stepped out from between the rows, faces covered, gloves on. One grabbed the bound man under the arms. Another cut something loose. The third stared directly at me. Even through the mask, I felt it. He wasn't surprised to see me. It was like they knew I'd eventually find him. "Hey," I shouted. "Stop." But my voice sounded small in that giant building. They moved quickly, practiced. They dragged the man toward the emergency exit near Dock 9. Within seconds, they were gone. The exit alarm never sounded. The door never beeped. It was like they knew exactly how to move through that building. And I just stood there, frozen. I called 911 immediately, told them everything. When officers arrived, they searched every aisle, every exit, every inch of that warehouse. They found nothing. No zip ties, no blood, no signs of forced entry. Even the forklift I thought had been moved, back against the charging station, exactly where it was supposed to be. One of the officers asked if I'd been sleeping. Another asked if I was under stress. They didn't say I imagined it, but they didn't have to. I could see it in their eyes. For weeks, I questioned myself. Maybe exhaustion did it. Maybe shadows and isolation messed with my perception, until the package arrived. 3 weeks later, plain brown box. No return address, just my name written in black marker. Inside was a single folded piece of paper. The handwriting looked rushed, uneven. It said, "You shouldn't have seen that. That was it." No signature. No explanation. My hands went numb. They knew who I was. They knew where I lived. Which meant one thing: that night was real. I quit the next day. Didn't even finish the week. Management tried to convince me to stay, said maybe I needed time off. But they didn't know about the note. I didn't tell them. Even now, I replay that moment in my head. The way the masked man looked at me. Not shocked, not angry. Calm, like I wasn't a threat. Like I was just inconvenient. And here's what keeps me awake. If they were bold enough to tie someone up inside a secure warehouse, if they were confident enough to move through that building without triggering alarms, how many times had they done it before? And how many times had I walked those aisles, completely unaware I wasn't alone? Because sometimes, late at night, when I'm walking to my car, I hear footsteps behind me, and I don't turn around right away anymore. I just keep walking, because I learned something in that warehouse. Some people don't mind being seen, as long as you understand you were never supposed to survive it. At 3:12 a.m., a man shoved a phone into my hands and begged me to hide it, and 10 minutes later, someone else walked in asking for it by name. By sunrise, one of them was dead and the other was still watching me. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 27, and I work the overnight shift at a 24-hour convenience store just outside Dayton, Ohio, right off a quiet stretch of Route 35. Night shift isn't glamorous. Between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock a.m., it's mostly empty roads, buzzing fluorescent lights, and the occasional regular grabbing cigarettes or an energy drink. After a year on nights, you start recognizing patterns: who comes in, what time, what they buy. One of those regulars was Rick Donnelly, mid-40s, construction worker. Usually came in around 3 o'clock a.m. before his early shift. Always bought black coffee and a pack of Marlboros. He'd make small talk, complain about the weather, then head out. Predictable, safe. Until that Thursday. It was 3:08 a.m. when he walked in, and I knew immediately something was wrong. He looked pale, not sick pale, but terrified pale. His eyes kept darting toward the windows. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped his wallet. "Rick, you okay?" I asked. Instead of answering, he pulled a phone from his jacket pocket and slid it across the counter toward me. "Please," he whispered, "just keep this safe. Don't let anyone take it." I stared at him. "What's going on?" "They can't get it," he muttered, barely audible. "If they get it, I'm done." Before I could ask who they were, he backed away from the counter. "Just hold it," he said. "I'll come back for it." And then he left. Not casually. He rushed out, almost tripping over the doormat. I stood there holding the phone, my heart thudding. It was an older Android, screen locked, no visible damage. I told myself maybe it was something stupid. Maybe he owed someone money. Maybe he was paranoid, but something in his eyes didn't look paranoid. It looked final. I slid the phone under the counter beside the register. That's when the door chimed again. 10 minutes later, a man walked in wearing a black hoodie pulled low over his face. He didn't browse, didn't hesitate. He came straight to the counter. "Give me the phone," he said. "Not have you seen a guy. Not did someone leave something here. Just give me the phone." My stomach dropped. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, forcing my voice steady. He leaned closer. Up close, I could see his jaw clenching under the shadow of the hood. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. There was no yelling, no threats. That almost made it worse. He stared at me for another few seconds. Then he walked out. Didn't run, didn't look back, just left. But before the door shut, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. He didn't get into a car. He just stepped into the darkness at the edge of the lot, like he was willing to wait. I locked the doors for a few minutes after that. Told myself I was overreacting. Rick never came back that night. At 7:30 a.m., as I was getting ready to clock out, my phone buzzed with a local news alert. A man had been found dead in an alley 3 blocks from the store. No official cause yet, but when they showed his picture, it was Rick. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. Then the next detail hit. Police found a note in his jacket pocket. It read, "She has the phone." I nearly dropped my phone. He had written that about me. I brought the phone to the police that same morning, told them everything. They took it in as evidence. A few days later, they called me back in. "There's nothing on it," the detective said. "No unusual messages, no hidden apps, no suspicious files." "Then why would someone kill him over it?" I asked. He didn't answer directly. Sometimes people think something is important when it isn't. But that didn't make sense. Rick had been terrified. And the man in the hoodie knew exactly where to go. A week passed. Then I saw him again. Same hoodie. Standing across the street at 2:50 a.m., not moving, just watching. He never came inside again, but he was there. Sometimes near the dumpsters. Sometimes leaning against the closed car wash next door. Always in view. Always just far enough away. The police told me if he wasn't trespassing or threatening me, there wasn't much they could do. "He's probably unrelated," one officer suggested. Unrelated. To a dead man and a missing phone. Sure. Then something else happened. 2 weeks after Rick's death, the detective called me again. They had run deeper diagnostics on the phone. There was a hidden partition on the device. Encrypted. Someone had wiped it remotely the morning after Rick died, completely erased. "Any idea what was on it?" I asked. The detective hesitated. "We think it may have contained video files." Of what? Another pause. We don't know, but I did, or at least I had a feeling. Rick worked construction, industrial sites, ports, warehouses, places where things happened off the books, places where people might not want cameras recording. And suddenly, I understood why the man in the hoodie had said I was making a mistake. Because if the phone had contained something serious, and they believed I still had it, then Rick wasn't the end of it. I quit 2 days later, couldn't handle feeling watched every night. Even after I left, I'd still see him occasionally. Different parking lots, gas stations. Once outside my apartment complex, always at a distance, never approaching, just observing, like he was waiting for me to slip up, waiting for me to remember something. Because here's the part that keeps me up at night. Rick never unlocked the phone in front of me. I never saw what was on it. But what if there was something stored somewhere else? Cloud backup, hidden file, something I don't even know about, something they think I still have access to. Because every now and then, around 3:12 a.m., my phone lights up with a blocked call. No voicemail, no message, just silence if I answer. And in that silence, I swear I can hear breathing. Slow, patient, like someone reminding me they're still waiting for the phone.